right, awesome. Well, welcome to the Just People podcast. With this being our episode before the episode, we thought it might be good for some of you who don't know CeCe or myself, just to get a little bit of an idea about why we're doing this podcast and kind of who we are. So
Yeah.
with that, CeCe, got anything to add?
Hey, y'all. Glad that you're here with us. Glad to be co-hosting with John. I think this is a special time in history and a momentous time. There's a lot to talk about, right? As it regards faith and democracy and freedom and all of the things. So I'm glad to be doing that with my friend John. And I hope you all will stay tuned and be a part of our community.
All right. So CeCe, I think a good place to start would, can you think of a kind of a milestone moment for you that really shaped who you are today? Like something in your life that just stands out that it's like, this is why I'm the CeCe that everybody knows.
Oh, Lord, there's been so many of those. But as you ask me the question, the first thing that comes to my mind is really my faith origin story, which a part of that, it's not the beginning of it, but a part of it was a really special trip me and my sister took to visit our family members in Seattle, Washington when we were 14. And that was my first time visiting non-denominational church. We were there for a couple of months over the summer. It was my first time hearing praise and worship music, because in my church we sang all hymns at the time. And it was my first time seeing like a big group of kids very, very passionate about their relationship with God. And so it was a really formative couple of months for me and foundational. And so that moment was really a part of building up the foundation where all my work lives on. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
why I work, why all of my work is like faith rooted. So I'll say it like that. What about you? That's a good question.
I think it's similar to that. It's like I came to faith pretty later in life, in my 30s, in a pretty big box evangelical church. And I had
Yeah.
the opportunity, connected with actually a mutual friend that we connected through, Jason, and he invited me out to a justice conference out in Sacramento, California. And while I was there, we're talking about God, we're talking about faith, but we're talking about God and faith in the embodiment form, how it actually plays out, how we should participate in all avenues of our life, not just on the weekend, and not just what music do we listen to? Are you listening to K-Love? Are you listening to that worldly music? All of these things, it feels like we're talking about the same God, the same Jesus, but how we talk about worshiping that God and how that should impact how we actually live our lives was radically different. And for me, that's when I think prior to that, I kind of felt a little bit like fish out of water. I was happier than I was prior to coming to faith, but I still didn't quite I still had that itch. I was like, man, something's not quite lining up for me. So being around other pastors, other churches outside of Oklahoma, and seeing and hearing how they talked about justice and how they talked
Yeah.
about reparations, how they talked about history, how they talked about truth telling, I was like, this is it. It just kind of
Okay.
lit my soul on fire, and that was pretty big for me.
Amazing.
Yeah. So when did you first realize what you believe about God impacts everything about your life?
When did I first realize what I believe about God impacts everything in my life? I can't identify a particular moment where that hit me, but I would say I understood that late in high school. And as I was thinking about, okay, where do I want to go to college? What do I want to do? Right.
Mm-hmm.
I felt very much like this, quote unquote, what people call the call to ministry, but I didn't like that, right? I didn't want to do that because every model of this call said boring, said old, said male, said, all kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, don't want to do that. But it was something that nagged at me for a really long time. And so I would say in high school, I very much was conscious that, okay, I feel this nudge to go in a particular direction. How can I avoid it? And if I can't avoid it, then what can I do with it? So that
Mm-hmm.
really kind of led me to go to the undergrad I went to, go to divinity school, and all of those little stepping stones, have led the way to 20 some years of working in faith and justice.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I think for me, it probably would have been foster care. So when my wife and I first came to faith, a lot of they're like the instructions they give you, like, well, just read your Bible every day. And so we're reading our Bible every day, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, like this, some of this isn't tracking for me. Like this wrathful, angry God, like we're in Judges. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with all this. And so we really just kind of lived in the
Mm,
Gospels because like that made sense to us. And so we became kind of fundamentalists, but just about caring for people. And so within like
mm,
3 months of us coming to faith, I think we're already in foster care sign up classes, like to start that process. And it was in foster care, specifically one event. It was our second placement. We had a couple kids for close to a year. It was moving towards termination. In fact, like it was all but done. So the DHS had already reached out to us and asked if we would be willing to adopt because that was the motion that they were going to file. And we were like, yeah, sure, we'll do that. And that started a really cantankerous relationship with us and the kid's mom. It
mm.
went from us kind of being friends to us not being friends. Like we actually
Yeah.
we knew each other prior to us being the caregivers for her kids. So, long story short, by the time we hit the pinnacle, it's like she hates us. We're not big fans of her. And she was coming
Whoa.
to do like one last unsupervised visit before that court date that would have been moving to terminate her rights. And it's like right before she knocks on the door, like I'm just stewing, like all the things I could say to her. And this thought just like drops into my head. And are you showing her the same grace and mercy that I've shown you? Backstory prior to faith, I was not a great guy, you know? And so like I've been
John, I don't
shown
believe you. I
it,
don't
it,
believe you. I believe
I
you've
could
always
probably
been
get you
great.
letters of reference from people that would let you know that I was not a great guy at all. And my wife can attest to that because she was married to me for 10 of those years. And I was just like, huh? And again, the same question repeated. Are you showing her the same love, grace, and mercy that I've shown you? And then she knocks on the door. And I'm just standing there with nothing to say, open the door and just invited her to sit at our kitchen table. And I was like, I don't really know what to say to you right now, other than I haven't shown you the same love, grace, and mercy that I've been shown. And in that moment, she just broke and wept. And we didn't talk. Like she cried. I sat there and felt horrible, but also like really curious as to why those words mattered so much to her from somebody that had treated her so poorly.
Mm,
And kind of the tail of that was after talking to the attorneys, they were like, well, the reason we're terminating is because she just doesn't have a support system. Like you were the only people in the world that she knew
mm.
when they were taken into custody that could have been foster parents. Like other people had rap sheets or whatever and didn't qualify. And I was like, so the reason we're terminating is because she doesn't have a support system? Correct. And I was like, what if we were her support system? Like, what if we were the fallback? 2 weeks later, I'm writing a letter to both attorneys and the judge recommending that they not terminate and that we actually start the reunification
Uh,
process with the contingency plan that Mandy and I would be the the fallback option, like if she needed help. And it worked. She's like I actually married her and her husband. Like I performed their ceremony like a couple years later and
oh my
just
God.
a really cool story of like restoration and what like not having a plan, not having it all figured out. I just knew that I was being a jerk. And so just being like, stop being a jerk and how love
That's
actually
powerful.
does restore all things. And so
Mm,
and that happened pretty early on. So
that's powerful, John. I have never heard that story from you, and I don't know. I knew how deeply you all were involved in foster care, but I want to hear more about that. So maybe over time you can share with me and the and our audience more about your journey in foster care and how that relates to our work today, because foster care is a serious issue, still a
mhm.
serious social issue right now.
Yeah, for sure. So next question to you, CC, is who is somebody that's just ordinary, a just person that to you has shaped your faith more than any famous theologian?
Yeah, this one is easy. Apostle Gabrielle Bean out of Connecticut. When I was in seminary, I met this beautiful, unassuming little lady named Gabrielle. She was in school with me, and long story short, can began to go to her Bible studies. And over the course of, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it was, she discipled me really. And
Mm,
she was so important to what I believe, like my really my formation. Right. I went to school to learn like information, but in terms of my formation, hands
Mhm.
on, it was this little lady here. She is an intercessor. I come from a charismatic background. She's an intercessor. She is a preacher. She's all of these things that are not easy to be as a Black woman in sometimes predominantly white faith spaces, right? But she
Mhm.
went from our non-denominational setting to become an Anglican priest because she
Mm.
heard God say, go be an Anglican priest. And she is the most loving, compassionate person I've ever known. And she taught me how to pray, have faith, and follow God. Like,
Mm.
follow God, like hear and follow, do that. So since then, all the things that I've done since then has been in part because I've had people like her in my life that has helped me form an ear and form a heart to sense when God is talking to me about particular things
Mhm.
and encouraged me and given me like the courage to say, hey, you don't need permission, just go do.
Yeah.
So Gabrielle Bean, hands down.
Love it.
You, what about
Well,
you? I
I'm
know you
I'm
come,
thankful for that woman because I
yeah,
benefit from
I'm thankful for it
from you.
too.
Yeah.
John, I know you come from a big church kind
Mhm.
of background,
Mhm.
and I don't know how easy it is because there's like so many kind of like big names you probably know and have been in relationship with over time. But who will be the person for you that you feel like has shaped you the most?
That's easy. It's Mandy. It's my wife. So we complement each other really, really well. So if you're into Enneagram type stuff, like I live in the head triad and she lives in like the gut triad. So she's all about embodiment and she's like almost like a ready, fire, aim. Like, so she's already doing, and then she'll figure out maybe why she's doing it. And I'm like
Uh-huh.
calculating and thinking and
Uh-huh.
what is the
Mulling
best
over,
way?
thinking through.
Yeah, like I know I'm going to do it, but what is the best way to do it? And just watching her, I'll give you just super practical example. It's not the first time it happened. She walks in the other day, like 6:30 at night, like she's had a longer day at the office. And so she's in her like work attire, her business clothes, and she has no shoes on. And I'm like, "Where are your shoes?" She's like, "You already know." I'm like, "Okay." And I did. I already knew. So we work downtown, and if she sees somebody walking without shoes that is
Mm,
unhoused, she's just like, I have more shoes at home. I can go get more shoes if I
yes.
like. There's a little bit of money in our
Yeah.
checking account. It's fine. And it's not even a thought.
Yeah.
She will turn the car around. The reason, like, to me, it's like the idea of discipleship is our daughter, you've got Life 360 and she'd be in high school and we're like, man, she's supposed to be home already. And we look and she'd just be like at a random corner, like at 240 and Walker or Western, just like in a parking lot. And we'd call her up and she's like, I'm just talking to some friends. And so because like she would watch Mandy do these type of things, she would see somebody who would be standing on a corner with the sign and she'd just ask if they're hungry. And if they said yes, there's a McDonald's right there. She'd pull in, grab them food, and then go sit with them and talk with them while they ate.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
And so just seeing like how that ripple effect has affected not only me, but like our kids. Yeah. Super simple. Mandy Mays for me.
That's that's dope. I love Mandy Mays. Nobody can tell
Yeah.
me anything negative, bad about me, and I'll be ready to fight. I love Mandy Mays. She is the absolute best. But I didn't know about the shoes, and that makes me love her
Mhm.
even more. John, I'm wondering for you. We met in Oklahoma. We
Mhm.
did work together in Oklahoma, and my experience in Oklahoma was that it's not the easiest place in the world to do what the kind of justice work that I think of and that I
Mhm.
lean into, right? It is amazing when it comes to like philosophies around neighbors. Like folk do amazing practical theology in Oklahoma around neighboring. I've never seen anything like it anywhere
Mhm.
else that I've ever been, really.
Yeah.
But the justice piece in terms of like dealing with systems and, dealing with things that we know are not right, but most of us think we don't have the tools or we're not smart enough, whatever, to do something about. As a
Mhm.
justice person yourself, I wonder what it's like for you. What's Oklahoma? like for you? And what does justice mean for
Mm.
you as somebody who is informed a lot by where you live, Oklahoma?
Man, that's a loaded question. I would say, one, I agree with the sentiment. Like the reason we moved back to Oklahoma, we spent 10 years outside of Oklahoma when we first got married in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Memphis, Tennessee, is that, and here's the thing, I'm going to preface this with, I actually don't know which one's worse. Like neither, I think, are prime soil for justice work, right? Because when you're talking about North Carolina and Tennessee, you're talking about the South. I don't really know what Oklahoma is. I don't know where we rate like from a geographical, like cultural stereotype. I'm not really sure. But the reason we moved back is I was like, Oklahomans were the kindest people we'd been around.
Yeah.
Like the idea if a tornado rips through or a bombing happens, like just because we've been here, we've seen it. When there's something that you can't place immediate blame on and say, well, it's this person's fault or it's this political system or it has something to do, like if there's nothing to scapegoat, people
Yeah.
just show up in droves and will do anything and everything that is asked of them. I think the flip side of
Yeah.
that coin is, and I'm not talking trash, it's statistically correct. Like we just slide between like 47th and 50th in education. Like, so
Yeah.
that makes us very susceptible to misinformation and propaganda and things that keep us divided. And so, and that's really big in our religion. Like there's a lot of peacekeeping and very little peacemaking in some of the larger, more mainstream, popular churches. Like we just don't touch those political things because they're political, and we don't think that politics and gospel necessarily mix. Or I think they're the
Yep.
same thing. Gospel is in and of itself a political term. So yeah, I think that's how I would say it. Because when we were in Memphis, like I was shocked at. So in Memphis, like neither Mandy or I were believers, but it was in North Carolina and Memphis both where we both got a thirst for justice.
Yeah.
There were two very specific things. When we were in North Carolina, we were held up at an ATM by gunpoint. So like a drive up ATM. Like next thing you know, there's a 22 pointed at Mandy, and then it would come back. Harper's in the back seat. She's like 18 months old,
Mm.
pointing at her kid, like empty the account, empty the account. And what this guy didn't know is we were broke, and we were about to go out for some drinks, so we were depositing a check. So we'd have like, you get like $200 credit immediately when you do it so that we could have a little bit of money to go have a couple drinks on. Mandy kept her cool. Like nothing really happened. He walked away after, a pretty intense moment. But when we went to my restaurant across the street, called 911, did all of that, and I gave the description. The reality is the description was this guy's my height. He's probably 6'2", 6'3". Is wearing a ski mask. He's about 230, 240, like kind of heavier set guy. And, he was a black gentleman. And so that was the description. Like that's who just held us up. And then I got in my car and I started driving around looking for the guy too. And what I was running into was like the police were on it, and they had like one in particular, I can still see his face. All they heard was black. That's all they
Mm-hmm.
heard. So a guy was jogging and he might have been 5'6", 5'7". Like he was not, he was thin. Like he looked like maybe a high school, like a sophomore, like not a big guy at all. That does not match the description. Isn't wearing like a full black tracksuit and a ski mask, like just like running shorts. And they've got him zip tied on a curb. And I'm just like, what? That's not it. Like that's not even close to it. And I remember the look on his face, and then I saw like 3 or 4 more encounters just like that while I was driving around.
Mm-hmm.
And then found out later, like the reason this guy was holding us up was because he had court the next day. And if he didn't show up with, I don't remember the exact amount of money, but they were going to put him in jail for back child support, which then got me thinking about like just the absolute nonsense that would be, because how can this man pay off a debt if he's in prison? Like that doesn't, if that's what you
Golly.
want, like this seems like the justice system itself in that moment, I was like, none of this makes sense. Like, why are we putting people in desperate situations that then
And I
impact
was
other
about to
people?
say, yeah, I was about to say, and desperation leads people oftentimes to do terrible things. And
Mhm.
I'm so sorry that happened to you, and that you have the kind of heart that you can see like a bigger picture around a
Mhm.
situation or a person. And, you've done some really amazing justice work. And I know that you and I both care a lot. about the world, but particularly our nation right now. And,
Uh-huh.
you know, I want to know from you. I know you got questions too, so we're gonna get back to your questions. But you're
Oh,
making me
we keep
like
going.
come up with questions here. I want to know if like why pro democracy? Because y'all, let's just put it out here. We're pro democracy people. All right, we are separation of church and state people, right, John?
Yes,
Am I right?
100%.
Okay. Okay. We are separation of church and state people. We're really, really concerned about our country right now, about our friends, about our families, about our neighbors, and kind of the path that we have been going down, not just in the last year or so, but like over the last like decade or so. Right. And I feel like we are definitely going in the opposite direction. We're trying to go in the opposite direction of democracy, which
Uh-huh.
in my mind just simply means the power of the people at work, the people in power, the people speaking about how to even govern the people. And we're now down to almost like the power of a person. One. I
Uh-huh.
want to know from you why this podcast? Why are you passionate about pro democracy?
Yeah. Well, I think the same, like, I believe my eyes. Like, I believe what I see. I believe what I hear. And when I say I believe what I hear, it doesn't mean like I believe every single TikTok,
Right.
Instagram reel, like, but like you can see it. You can see things happening in our country all around us that have never in my lifetime would I've considered even a remote possibility. And that's my own naivete and privilege. I should have. Like, I should have seen
Hmm.
that this was absolutely a possible conclusion, if not a foregone conclusion, because I would argue we haven't been a functioning democracy for 30, 40 years. And what I mean by
Hmm.
that is like the idea for the people, like, and by the people, I wasn't prepared for this question, but there were two documents. One was from the Republicans, one was from the Democrats. Republicans was coming out of World War II, I believe. And essentially their whole approach was like, we've got to get away from some of these soft liberties of caring for the poor or racial justice. Like, literally, it's in black and
Hmm.
white types. Like, these things as a country are not our concern. Our concern is we're losing our economic footing in the world stage, and we will no longer be the economic power if we don't put all of our time, energy, and resources into maintaining our economy. And so then coming out of Vietnam, the Trilateral Commission report, I think is what it was called. This is the
Oh my God.
Democrats.
No, this stuff is dead. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, this is like their plan for America. These people ended up on like part of Carter's administration, like several of the folks that wrote this document, and they said the same thing. They're like, we are losing our global power from an economic standpoint, and this is what we need to focus on. And so in my opinion, if we just take off, like, I am not a Democrat or a Republican. Like, I'm an independent free thinker. I'm registered as a Republican in Oklahoma so that I can play defense. So that when I'm
I
voting in the
understand that.
primaries, I'm
Hey,
like, not
hey,
this
this is
clown.
chestnut checkers.
Yeah,
Yes.
anybody but this dude.
Hmm. Yeah.
And but so when I look at it, it's like I just want to the people, just normal people, which is like 99.8% of anyone that would ever come across this podcast. You are closer to being
Right.
unhoused than you are to being a billionaire, right? And
That's
so
right.
from my vantage point, I think the two-party system, one side generally serves oligarchs and the other side generally serves big business, particularly big tech, big
Hmm.
pharma, big media. And then like, but we talk about social issues that should affect normal people, but that doesn't, like, none of the policies actually come into play. And they get us talking about
Yeah.
things that are like teeny tiny, like microscopic things on the world stage when we have like our unhoused population keeps growing. Like, racism is alive and resurging. The systems are broken. Like, we pay, I mean, we're talking about like 250 years of freedom and taxation without representation. Like, tell me like, how are your taxes representing you? Wherever you live, tell me how they're serving you. They're not.
Hmm.
So that's why, like, that's what I'm about. It's like, how do we bring education and help people see, like, look, like, this is like the idea of America is a beautiful idea. It is a beautiful idea. It is a social experiment. And 250 years ain't a long time. I'll even say, like,
It's not.
And it's not real.
We're
Like,
very
oh,
young,
we've been a nation for 250 years. But actually, if
very
suffrage
young country.
just got to women and people of color within the last 100 years, then you've been a nation for 100 years.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
How about
That's
that?
2
That's a really, really
generations.
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to just go back to what you mentioned, which was the folks who are listening to us, our audience, and we hope that you guys will like, share, pass us on, because we really want to engage with folks, right? We're going to on the Just People Pod. We're going to be talking to all kind of people from all walks of life. Like me and John are good friends, but it's only because justice brought us together that our paths have even crossed, right? And we're going to be talking to folk who have similar thoughts that we do, and maybe have different thoughts than we do. But we're going to be talking about us. We're going to be talking about our country. We're going to be talking about our faith. We're going to be talking about what does democracy mean and what does this moment call for? And so that's what the Just People Pod is about. That's what we're going to be here to do. And so I really want you guys to lean into our conversations because it's going to be some good folk. All right, John, back over to you. That's my commercial.
No, that's great. Like for you, like when you think through the idea that we're talking about the intersection of faith and politics, and that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But like for you, when you're thinking of how do you handle these two things, like to you, it seems natural. So I just love to hear you talk about the intersection of faith and politics and why you think that that's not such a taboo subject.
Yeah, I think most of us think about faith in a really, about politics in a really derogatory way, right? We say, "Well, I don't do politics," as if it's a negative thing. Politics is really about how we decide to live together as a people. That's what politics is really about. Like,
Mm.
what are the rules? What are the policies? How are we going to take care of one another? How are we going to take care of the most vulnerable or not take care of them? How are we going to take care of the retired? How are we going to put people in power who have compatible values that will help push our ideals forward into the future, right? Like these are the things that politics really mean to me. Now, it can oftentimes get nasty, dirty, ugly, all these things, and that's because our ego, our pride, our greed, our stuff like gets in the way. But ultimately, to me, politics is about how are we going to, or how are we currently living together as a
Mhm.
people in a structure, right?
Mhm.
And are we doing well at that, or are we not doing well? And that's what the tug of war is about. Like some people think we're doing well, some people think we're not, and so we're constantly doing this tug of war, which I think is really, really healthy. I do because I think I don't think any extreme is an answer anywhere. That's just me, right? So the
Mhm.
tug of war, I think, is really, really important. So considering that it's about people, that politics is ultimately about people, then and because my faith says I have to love people, then it's not a stretch for me
Mhm.
from faith to politics because I have to care about how other people are doing.
Mhm.
The truth of the matter is, John, I have a pretty good life. You know what I mean? I know I raise holy hell on social media and other places. Like I might not have a good life, but I personally have a great life. My kids don't want for anything. I'm not in a position where I have to worry about a roof over my head or groceries in my refrigerator, or gas in my car, or
Mhm.
the school district my kids are in, right? The quality of education they are getting, or the rates of HIV, or any other thing that I really, really, really care about, or Gaza. These are not things that personally touch me often, you know?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
my faith says that I have to love my neighbor as I love myself. And
Mhm.
so if I wouldn't want if I want groceries, if I want gas, if I want shelter, if I want my kids to get a good education, if I want all these things, then the spirit of Christ for me compels me to want them. If I want them for myself, I should want
Mhm.
them for other people. Now, whether
Mhm.
they want that stuff for themselves, that's another question altogether. But I'm passionate about these things because I'm passionate about the ways in which we were asked by um, I'm asked by my particular theology to live in the world, right?
Mhm.
And so for me, faith and politics is not a stretch at all.
Mhm.
Now we got people. I recognize that plays out differently. We can all claim to have the same faith, and I'm not saying that claim is wrong for anybody or ingenuine for anybody. We many of us can have that same claim and still tussle about what it means to love our neighbors. Still
Mhm.
tussle about what Christ has said to us. Still tussle about how to live this faith out in public, right? And
Mhm.
so we see that a whole lot right now. Folk who think like me struggling with folk who don't think like us. And again, I think the struggle is healthy.
Yeah, I like that. That makes sense to me. I think the idea is simple, the embodiment is complex. But like to
Yes,
love
sir.
your neighbor as you love yourself. It's like, if this were me, what would I want? Okay. Then how do we bring that to fruition? Right. And
Yeah.
that gets really complicated. I think earlier when I was ranting about not being a Republican or a Democrat or like cards on the table, like I'm some categorical like
Mm.
anomaly, but it would be closer to anarchy than anything in like a good way. If you ask someone like where do you derive your faith from, they're gonna be like, well, God, great. And then you ask them within 3 questions, they're gonna get to the Bible. And then you're like, and then they're going to talk about Jesus. Right? And then it's like, okay, cool. So where do you hear most about Jesus? Oh, the Gospels. Okay. So like gospel, then the word gospel is evangelion, right? Like, and
Mm.
that term evangelion was a political term. There was before there was the Gospel of Mark, Luke, and John, Matthew. There's the Evangelion of Caesar. There's the Gospel of Alexander the Great. Like there's this idea
Mhm.
that when a people are conquered, right? So if you've seen the Avengers, the guy that would like float around after Thanos like jacked up a planet and would be like, everybody, Thanos is here and don't be alarmed. You are now subjects of Thanos. Like he is the crier. He is pronouncing the Evangelion of Thanos and essentially saying, this is what life is going to be like. This is how we structure society. Like, so all of these powerful top-down hierarchies and empires had these evangelions, these things like, this is how the world works when you're under our subjugation. And so when these writers are writing about the evangelion of Jesus, the idea of it being an upside down kingdom, like it's in the title. Like we're telling you, this is how power works. It works from the bottom up. It's constantly
Yeah.
being given away. It isn't something that you hoard. There's enough for everybody. And you don't need to create
Mhm.
a political system to do it. You just do it. Like Jesus wasn't like, here's how we're going to overthrow Rome. He's like, among you, those of you who choose to live this way, it's going to be like this. This is how you're going to live it out because it
Mhm.
does. It subverts all of it. It subverts the reality that says this is how we have to do it. And actually, like we don't have to participate in a lot of these systems that are broken. We can make an impact, small, very grassroots impact, but you can make an impact like right now, while we also try to build off ramps and kind of fix the democracy that we have. So again, like the idea is simple, but then all of the little pieces we're going to have to tinker with and build. That's where it gets to be really complex, but it doesn't give us a pass to just do nothing and just vote every 4 years and think that's going to change something.
That's right. There's a whole lot of work for to
Yeah.
do between elections. We have midterms coming up in November, so there's a lot of folks working toward midterms, getting people out to vote. We've got issues of redistricting in the South, and we feel like we've taken several steps back, right, in history. And so I'm really passionate about free and fair elections. I know so many other folks in this country are passionate about free and fair elections. However, the elections turn out, we want to make sure that they are free and they are fair
Hmm.
and free of interference. But after November, there's still so much work to do, right? And so I really want my hope is for the folks who follow along and engage with us on the Just People Pod is to know that, you are but one, but you are one. I am but one, but I am one. And so is John. And, if we put all our little efforts together and, try to move this thing toward freedom for everybody, joy for everybody, flourishing for everybody, working toward all of us putting our little pebbles in to work toward the common good, then I think we can have a stronger democracy and it's worth fighting for. And
Hmm.
so this is this is in part our offering to create engagement and dialogue and help us to all think through the moments that we are in right now because they are important. They're very important, and you are important to this story. So again,
Mhm.
hoping that everybody will follow along and be a part of us.
Yeah, I concur.
What's your
Uh,
the last question on your page?
So the last two would be, what is something we admire about each other and where do we disagree?
Okay. Woo,
Yeah.
that's
That we're
good.
still just humans, right? Like we're not
Yeah,
cookie
for
cutter
sure.
copies of each other.
For sure. Okay. What do I admire about John Mays? I admire that John is such a brilliant person, but so unassuming. Like you would pass by John in the grocery store and not know like exactly the kind of information that lives in this man. He's so, so smart. I admire the family man that he is, the kids that he raises, how amazing his kids are. I admire John, your curiosity. Like, I remember being a part of a church in Oklahoma City and being a part of starting this church, and it was kinda one of these stranger, like, quirky, like, more liberal churches, and I saw you I didn't know you really well at the time. I saw you in the audience before the service started, and I went back to the other organizers of the church and said, "Oh my god, John Mays is here," because I thought that you were gonna be like, "Oh, these people are, like so off point, right?" And so just to learn to get to know you more and learn how open-minded and curious you are spiritually has really blessed my socks off. And you taught me a lot, by the way. So in some ways, I'm a little bit more dogmatic than a lot of people think I would be. And John challenges me to keep my curiosity open, right? So that's
Mhm.
really good. What
Yeah,
about me, John?
that was really sweet. Thank you, CeCe. You're one of the bravest people I know.
Oh wow.
And I've got to witness it. So like particularly with some of the Justice for Julius stuff. The idea, it is one thing to hear and have talking heads on social media talking about truth to power or put a sticker on a water bottle, but it's another thing to stand beside somebody, calling them to the carpet and challenging the narrative and at the same time organizing and keeping hope alive for the family. Like, it was that bravery, and I wanna be careful here because I think there's a ton of room for people to be pissed off. Like, so that I don't this isn't tone policing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying, like, "And you did it the
Yeah.
right way." But the way
Right,
you
right.
chose to do it opened so many doors that then sparked other people's curiosity that they would walk through to where you
Mm,
had a very diverse crowd of people showing up to participate in these
yeah.
things,
It was amazing.
and
Amazing.
I was absolutely floored by the response. But yeah, I was like, some of the things you were saying, I was like, I'll aim that, but I don't know if I had the guts to say it. And
Uh-huh.
that's from somebody that was standing from the privilege of being a white male in Oklahoma. You know what I mean? So if I wouldn't have had
Mm,
the guts to say it, like
right.
how much braver are you as a black woman to say it in the state of Oklahoma? I thought that was just
That's really sweet.
absolutely unique.
That's really sweet, y'all. But let me tell you, some days I don't it might have been courage and thank God for it. But also sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And so not being from Oklahoma and knowing all the dynamics, I was just like just throwing stuff to the wind. Like, hey, I don't know who he is, but this is the truth. So I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
So some of it was just ignorance. Like I didn't know who was what, where. And then some of it I think is God given courage. Yes, but thank you. That's really sweet.
Yeah, that was great. And then just watching you again, when you talk about the curiosity, you display a great amount of curiosity. I mean, just from moving in between some of the faith spaces that you've been a part of. Like I think you
Mhm.
have kind of your home, right? You have the doctrine that in which you're most comfortable with, and a lot of that's like traditional and is comforting like for you. And
Mhm.
what I really appreciate is like how you can hold that tradition personally and really believe it without feeling the need to for everyone around you to conform to the same thing that brings you comfort that might bring them a little bit of
Right.
discomfort. And
That's
that's
right.
that's pretty unique these days. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Okay, now what don't we agree on? You go first. What am I
I don't
adamantly wrong about?
Man, I don't know if I tell anybody they're adamantly wrong about things. I do know you and I, well, at one point in time, so I won't assume where you are. I do not subscribe to any type of eternal conscious torment in regards to hell.
Mhm.
I can't make a case for it
Mhm.
biblically from just the stuff that I've read and information that I've consumed. That isn't to say that I don't believe in a hell, but not in eternal conscious torment. I would say hell is more of a literal right here, right now, things that we create. And I would give maybe a wink of curiosity to an idea of like refining in purgatory. Um,
Uh,
at the end of the age, whatever that might be. But yeah, I don't think biblically eternal conscious torment holds up very well
mm, mm,
in scholarship. But that's just
mhm.
me. I could be wrong.
No, that's good, and I'm holding on to hell with everything I got,
Uh-huh.
because some kind of way I don't want there to be, and I don't want people to go
Uh-huh.
there. But I have found, and I guess this goes back to how I'm traditional. And
Uh-huh.
I've got all kind of friends who are theologians who, have gone far, have grown far from where I am right now, right, on this
Uh-huh.
particular issue. But I always say hell is useful, and it's been useful for me when I think about the kind of life I wanna live,
Uh-huh.
and I mean, yeah, I'm just not ready to let go of it because I feel like evil has an origin, it has to live somewhere, and
Uh-huh.
so I haven't been able to get away from that yet, and I don't know that I will. So you're
Mhm.
right, you're so right about that,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think, and so one of the people whose theology I really kind of shaped that was two people, Bradley Jersak and then Paul Young, William Paul Young. He wrote The Shack, which is heresy in and of
Okay,
itself. You understand that. But what he was talking about was he was doing a conference and a young woman came up afterwards and he had held this position where it's like, what a foolish position. Like if you love people, and you've been shaped and changed by this love, then really you should let that go. It's just not a good theology. And then this young woman completely changed his mind. And it was at the end of the conference, she walked up and just describes this horrible abuse that she suffered at the hands of a couple people in her family.
mhm,
And it was in
mhm,
that moment that he realized that hell serves a healing purpose and a hopeful purpose for
mm,
those who have been victimized, those who have been oppressed, those who have suffered at the hands of others. And so that's the difference
yeah,
between a theology and a doctrine. It should bring comfort. And so where like to me maybe it brings for me I just can't make it square from a headspace. I can believe in no longer existing, shall not perish, but have everlasting life. So it's like in that age, it's like you coming in or you not coming in. You're not coming in, poof, you
right,
don't exist. Right. So like you still have this beautiful utopia to where maybe you're not like bungalow mates with like Stalin, right? I think like even,
right,
yeah, but even for me, it's like
right,
parts of the gospel shouldn't make me uncomfortable. And so like the idea of like
and
I'm
they do,
hesitant
don't
for
they? They do.
for being like a total universalist because I'm like, man, there's some people I don't know if I want to like, unless you're going to eternal sunshine or whatever the movie is where they erase your mind with Jim Carrey in it. Like I don't know if I want to forget the atrocities that some people have
That's right,
participated in
and
and done. So,
yes,
yeah, but I think
that's
that's
a
the
big
beauty about
part of
God is
how
God
I live
allows
as
us
well.
to hold God in a manner like I see this all throughout scripture. God is completely comfortable being misunderstood and misrepresented.
Mm,
Like
love that.
God is not insecure and pearl clutching and freaking out because we don't quite get it, because I don't quite get it. And nobody that's listening to this podcast quite gets it. Like none of us have it all figured out. But I think that that's the importance of love. Cause like you can't
Yeah,
argue love. When you actually see love embodied, you're like, that's love. That's the right thing to do.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Hey, if you listen to this introductory podcast, the good news is we're dropping this just a couple days before we drop our first episode, which is with our friend Abbott Danny Bryant out of Nashville. CeCe, you got to hang out and be a part of that conversation. What stood out to you in that? Give the folks a little
Yeah, yeah.
teaser of what they
So,
can expect.
yeah. He was dope. You can expect a really deep conversation about God's work in the world and where he believes we need to live among that work. That's really the kind of theme that I took away from his conversation. And a lot about his life, his own journey, right? Which I think when we listen to other people's journeys, that's really, really important because it gives us courage along the way. And I know I got some courage, a little bit more courage from listening to his life and what's happened in it. So you guys definitely tune in. We are powered by Faith Out Loud. And we'll tell you more about Faith Out Loud and episodes to come. But we're just glad that you're here. Stay with us. So like, share, do all the things, okay? Close us out, John.
All right. Appreciate y'all tuning in. And again, like, if you disagree with anything we say, or if you have thoughts, like, again, this is not an ecosystem where we're expecting conformity. We do expect some harmony. And so feel free, wherever you are listening to this podcast, I'm pretty sure there's a comment section. So we're happy to engage in conversation, provided it's productive and in good faith. So let's keep the conversations going. Sound good?
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody. Until next time.